Before we dive into taking a look at Fibery, I just wanted to mention our sponsor, Zoho Suite. Here's a little bit more about those guys. Hello folks, before we dive into this video, our sponsor for February 2020 is Zoho Suite. Now Zoho Suite is a range of products covering sales to help desks to email and much more. They wanted us to focus in on one of their products, which is Zoho Projects. Now Zoho Projects is a way for your team to manage projects and work in and out of the office. They have features like task management, time tracking, charts, reports, including Gantt chart abilities, plenty of issue tracking features for bugs, and also Zoho Analytics integrations too. With success stories from construction industries to software development, it's a popular place to bring all of your projects into one place. So thanks to Zoho Suite for sponsoring this month on Keep Productive. So we're taking a look at Fibery. So Fibery is sort of like Airtable and Zapier having a baby. It's a way for teams to create these workflow-like applications. In today's video, we're going to be doing all of the information you need to know and also dive into the application. So before, I want to run through a bit of information about Fibery, then we'll go into the product and we'll finish up with a conclusion, giving you some thoughts on the application. So to start, a bit of an overview. I first found Fibery when Ran Segal actually reviewed their website of the year over on his YouTube channel. And as you can imagine, a lot of you guys were talking about it in the comments and even in email. So I naturally had to respond and sort of check this application out. So the founder, Michael Dubikov, has been writing about no code for a while. A lot of people have been sharing those articles about. So Fibery is quite an interesting application. It is a way for you to build these applications, a bit like Notion, but with some form of workflow already involved. So I would say this application is fairly new. It's not, say, as robust as, say, Notion in having all of the features, but it is growing pretty rapidly. What I'm most impressed with is the way that you can connect up workflows, for example, with, say, Slack or Zapier and other such applications. And one of the other USPs is its graph that allows you to connect up different workflows in your business and create either wikis or even different views so that you can work on that specific project. So it's also helping you to map out your company. They're actually targeting this as well towards people who want to look to save moving applications in the future. So in the product today, what I'm going to do is overview the pricing, some of the features, and also build a little bit of a workspace. We're going to use the templates as well from this because some of the workflows are quite hard to actually develop from scratch, but I'll do a few as a demonstration. So guys, here we are on the Fibery.io website. And as you can see, it is really nice. It's got this really interactive design, as well as if you want this re-explained to you, you can go to the bottom right-hand corner and press I don't get this, explain it differently. And what's cool is it interacts or gives you a new site to basically understand the concept from. The pricing is super similar to, say, Notion, and you get 500 entries as well as 2 gigabytes attachment space, 5 visual reports and whiteboards, as well as unlimited views, types, collaborative documents as well. But for the team pricing per user, it's $7, which is fairly reasonable. Gives you unlimited access to pretty much anything else, but also 20 gigabytes of storage space. So when you log in, you get the option to go with Google, email, or Microsoft, which is a good range of login options. So this is the account that I created earlier, and they have some really useful getting started pages, and they also throw you onto the trial, which expires in 14 days from when you start, and that is for the team plan. So the best place to start is normally the templates area. I'll touch on that a little bit later, but let's show you the basic concept. So if I go and press the apps button in the bottom left hand corner, you get access to basically what your sitemap looks like from the pages that you've already created on this left-hand panel. I've gone and created a demonstration new app one, as also a content calendar for Keep Productive, but you can see here that they've created a few demo ones where you have the execution, the sales and strategy, and you can see they're all interlinked. So you can create some connections between each of these different types or workspaces. And each time you create what's called an app, each app works differently. So you can see that this execution works through this process, product, initiate, task, but it also connects with the purchase, the goal, and also the activity for sales. Now, if I'm honest, when I landed firstly on this page, I was fairly confused, and I did a little bit of outlining on how this basically works. So I'm going to take it back to the basics and explain how the new app type works. So let's say I go ahead and create a new app. Maybe I want a workspace to be able to plan in the content calendar for Keep Productive. Let's just call it content for this sake. Now, what's cool is I can create a new type inside of here. So I may want to call this one videos. So like you would inside of an application like Airtable or Notion, you can basically create the fields and relations so that you can plan and organize the information once you create these different views. Maybe I want the description already there, so I'm going to go and create a new field for date because I need to know when the video is releasing. So you can also add features like include start and end date and include time. In this case, I'm going to include the start time and add field. So once you add that field, it becomes part of the table or areas or views that you're going to create, which is really handy because you can create these different types of views each time you want to express data. So maybe I also want to add different fields like the topic in the video. So let's add topic and let's add a few options. So maybe these are a few options for that video. So let's go ahead and add field. So one thing you can do is you can actually change the color to this. So maybe I want to make videos blue. And maybe I want to add new type. So anytime I can press new type and basically create a new aspect of data. So as you can see here, once you've created content, you can basically start, the table is automatically created for that content. So you can see that videos is automatically rolling as a type. So what I can do is I can press and add new columns, a bit like you would with a Notion database. So let's say I wanted to add the topic and the release date. So let's go ahead and add 25th. And as you can see, let's tag it to a topic and let's give it a new title. So you can go ahead and add new rows, but what's cool is you can open up each of the fields, very similar to Airtable, and be able to see the description and any other fields and relations that you add here. So what's cool is you can have different views for your different rows. So for example, let's say this review of Fibery, I can put this as a sidebar if I wanted to, or open it up as a full page, which is pretty neat. And what's cool is I added a workflow there, allowing me to add a new field, which is called state. So in this case, the state is open. So if I went over to the newly created board, you can see that it's organized and ranked on states. So for example, in this case, I can drag them between the states and say this one is in progress. So what's cool is I can create a view at any given time. So what I can do is I can create a table, I can create a board, which is essentially a Kanban, I can create a timeline. So let's click on the timeline view to see what that looks like. Now you need to configure all of your different areas or views each time you create them. So in this case, let's select videos from the content area created. So for a timeline to work, you must have a start and end date. So what it needs, I need to go to the type and actually go ahead and add a new date in. In this case, I'll add a new field called edit date. So once I've added that field, I'm going to go back over to videos and add a edit date in, so that I have a little bit of a timeline of what I plan to do with this video. So if I go back over to the timeline, I'm going to choose the start date as the edit date and the end date as a release date. So there you see it starts plotting it inside of this timeline configuration. And you can also add other fields as well. So for example, the topic and even the state, and that's relevant to the state or the Kanban board we just created a minute ago. So we can also add an axis as well. So for example, if I had a certain topic that I wanted to, I could create the configuration for that and group it if I wanted to as well. But as you can see here, this is a really neat way for me to see a specific timelined event. And if I click in, so this is a great way for being able to see all of this data. And I can imagine this being very helpful in being able to see it in a month view or even a day view and skipping ahead days. So you can see the specific release date on certain things. So in this one, I might call it planning edits as the new title for that one. So what else can I add? I can also add a document or wiki, allowing me to create a very basic document. In this extent, you can see that the example showcases that you can add images, GIFs, files, relevant information that you and your team need to know, as well as checkboxes and things like that. So you can create a whiteboard inside of this application, and what you can do is you can choose an add entity tree. So for example, if I wanted to visually organize some of my ideas, so I can actually see this in a sort of mind map style format, which could be helpful for some people. Now as well, you can express data that you add, say in a table, as a chart, which could be a helpful way to coordinate information. As you can see, I'm probably not using it in the capacity that it's designed for. This is really designed for teams. So let's take a look at the templates and how they work. So if you go down here and press templates, there are a range of templates. The one thing I'd say is there's not too many of these applications. Once you install these applications, you can basically use them and act on them. So let's actually go to the vacations one, which is a great way for you and your team to track vacations, sick days, and a lot more. And this is how it works in visual. So what I quite like is you can install these applications, and once they install, it takes a few seconds, but you essentially get these pre-built experiences. So let's just go over to the edit app style view, and you can see here that it's related to day on, vacation, and sick. So it's a little bit trickier to actually create these new types. So the thing that I'd say is these new types are quite hard to be able to think about. Like, as you can see here, they've got 3 types of sick day. So day on, which I'm not sure what it is, but vacation and sick, which are clearly like indicators that you need to see. So they've added, for example, half days, icons, and also a Slack message as well, so that you can communicate with the person that is ill. So in this case, you can see here that it's got a document to start you out on. You can see here that you have 26 days per year, and it also tells you where you work and also some information that you need to know. But you also have a vacations table. So you can also go in and add someone's vacation. So I could say, Bob, and I could detect his plan his vacation for end of February, and I could associate it to a person. So I could associate it to myself in this case. And I could go on vacation day. You can see that currently today on vacation is Bob. So it uses filters here, and you can see the filters are very similar to applications like Notion. In this case, I can go start date is today and date ends is today. So I can make sure that filter comes up. You can also access sorting up here and colors to indicate specific topics and things like that. So what's cool is once you've got all that information, you can actually add a vacations timeline. So you can start adding the right people to the right areas. And in this case, you can see here that I'm on vacation. But that's a neat little application and a demonstration. But it does get more advanced than that. That's just a small application. So let's say we're looking at OKRs for teams. And as you can see, you can click into it, and there's a little bit of a demonstration there of it being worked. So if I went ahead and pressed install application, you can see that the OKRs app appears on this left-hand panel. And if I go over to it, they've made this relation between objective and key result. So all you have to do to create a relation is press this relation to, and connect up the type. And you can connect to not just the types that are inside of your apps, but also other such applications. So for example, you could connect them to the content calendar if you wanted to, and connect those key results. But in this case, let's just demonstrate what it looks like. So there is a README on all of these templates, which is pretty cool. So it does actually help you to plan the formulas, which we'll come to in a moment. So here we are. This is what the objectives board looks like by quarter. So you can see that this is an objective, improve product lovability. And you can click into it and you can find that it's related to 2 key results: reduce churn rate and increase NPS. And you can add all of the other details like quarter, progress, and you can add them all from that apps page, which seems to be fairly easy to do. So you can see this as a holistical plan. You can see that objective by quarter, I've got to improve product lovability. But if I go over to key results, if I click in, I can see the actual task. So that's 20 to 14 in churn rate. So you're probably wondering, how do I actually access that information and be able to get to see the tasks? So if I wanted to see the tasks as, say, a list, I could go to table. And as you can see, I can configure the rows based on the key results. So as you can see here, I can add all of the relevant details like what objectives it's associated to, the progress being made on it, and maybe the avatars that it's been assigned to. Maybe we'll remove the assignees. So as you can see, you can actually see the granular tasks level. So I'm starting to understand this application a bit more. So if I went to the OKR status, I can also view the information in a different manner. So you can see here, this is a board, but it looks a little bit different from the structure of the other board. So what they've done, they've brought in the key results, but actually matched them to the objectives that we talked about earlier. So you can see that improved product lovability, but this is almost like a quadrant board, allowing you to see. So you can see all of your information as an objective, but also as a key result. So that's one way you can set up your table. And I can imagine this is the way you do that. So if I go over to board configuration, you can see that I get 2 options. In this case, I'm going to go with key results objectives. Now in this case, I'm actually going to choose the columns as the objective. So you can see here that it organizes that in a different fashion. So in this case, I could add this as the objective. So it looks like I've done that. In this case, I might need to fiddle around with it. So there we are. I've got a bit of a better idea of how to actually configure a board. So if you want to configure the board at any given time, you can go up to the top right hand corner and press configure. So in this case, what they've done is they've changed the rows to states. So configuring your board is a really important part to how your data is structured. So they also have a progress overview, and this looks like it appears to be a chart. So you can see here that the chart brings in some of the progress made, and that takes what that does is it takes the number that is available inside of here. So for example, if I take the 10 deployments per day and I actually open that up, you can see that there's a progress bar here, and that is actually set based on a formula here that is based on the current value. So you can actually change this. You can say that you are 4 out of 10 the way through it, and the progress changes to 39.4%. And if I go back over to that progress overview, it'll update the information, and it should tell me, just pressing this update bar, that the 10 deployments per day is now 39. So you can update it up here, and it does give you a revision history as well. So what's cool as well is you can actually pin folders so that it opens up a specific objective. So what's cool is you can have that along that left-hand side if you wanted to see an objective with a breakdown of the tasks. Now let's just demonstrate this for one more area. Let's look at software development. So in this case, what it's trying to do is it allows you to see all of the issues and the things that people are working on, for example, like bugs and user stories. Now, I'm no software developer whatsoever, but hopefully I can explain this to you guys. So you can see here that they've got 3 core types. They've got release, which must be the release of the update or piece of software, a user story, and bug. And as you can see, they've got the release connected to the bug. So in this case, if I go onto the releases, you can see that the releases are planned for September to January of this year. And I can go over to the release plan and I can see the specific bugs and user stories related to the release. I can also see the work per person as well. And at any given time, I can see a list of work that needs to be done. But if I open up this, I can even add files as well as link bugs to it. So for example, I can link a bug to a user story. And also they've added these different variables like priority, severity, and the ability to connect it with a user story, as well as a release date. So for example, if I connected this bug here to a releases, and you can see here that say I connect it to do release 1, there you can see the bug has connected to it. So these relations help you to build different relationships with existing types or apps that you've created. So they do have more advanced ones. For example, one that allows you to message in Slack, and that will create a bug or create a sick day. So for example, when somebody posts a message, for example, I'm ill today, you could go ahead, open up the context menu inside of Slack, press create entity, connect it to a bug or a sick day, whatever the relationship you've set up. And then what happens is that entity is created using the Slack bot. So what's cool is that then updates inside of Fibery, and you can see all of that information based on the Slack message. So there are some connections here already, and the integrations are only seem to be available with Slack and Zapier. There's also ones for project management, also gist planning, product management, retrospectives, sales CRMs. So that could be a good one if you're looking to be able to track information and data in different fashions, and you can use it as a CRM as well. So the actual abilities seem to be pretty strong inside of Fibery. So guys, I'm not sure I explained that fantastically, but at the same time, it has a lot in this application and it's much more suited towards teams. So I definitely will be looking out for more people who are using it in this work context and what sort of relationships and workflows they've set up inside of their Fibery. So from actually checking out this application, I was fairly impressed at the way that it allows you to build workflows. Now, as you can imagine, teams who are looking to sort of create these sort of system or company overviews, it's actually a helpful application for that. But the one thing I had a trouble with is actually the guidance on how to create good setups, how companies are potentially using this in action. So I think they should probably introduce more of them, more templates. I found the templates area a little bit sort of thin in that side of stuff, but as you can imagine, still early days as a company. Now, there are a few of these sort of applications coming out, these experiences where you can sort of build custom workflows, and it doesn't look too dissimilar from an application called Coda. And I would say Coda is slightly more intuitive in its ability to allow you to create different areas. However, at the same time, if you're looking for this sort of visual structure, this is going to be a little bit better, as well as the workflows as well, and actually creating workflows inside of your team's processes. So whilst it is early days, this application looks impressive. I probably will do a deep dive on this, and the main reason behind that is because it's quite an advanced application. We only touched on some of the basic features, and as you can imagine, there are a lot. So we would dig a little bit deeper in a future video. So guys, hopefully you found that helpful. Please do leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Check out Fibery below and some of the other useful resources that we'll provide around it, like the user guide and also the no code article that their founder Michael Dubikov actually wrote. And you guys can comment below as well about what you think about Fibery, because that would be really great to hear. I always love hearing emails, tweets and the YouTube comments about different applications. So guys, a big thank you. Please do make sure you're subscribed, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Cheers everyone. Bye.